I'm going to teach you how to prepare yourself for the perfect job. And the overview of the webinar training is that I will provide you with helpful tips on preparing yourself for the perfect job that you have dreamed and desired of getting for yourself. The main points of this training is, first of all, you need to know what your values are, what you like in a particular job, and what dislikes you have with any job that you choose. And when you're picking a job, you should choose something based on your mission and purpose, not just based on your educational background. And also, when you choose a job, your educational background and a professional experience will play a very vital role in that. And one important thing is, it's always important to have a good resume when applying for a job. And when it comes to your resume, you should know all of your strengths and weaknesses as an employee and as an individual. Another important thing that we will discuss is why it's important to have a profile on LinkedIn or other job websites. And another important thing we'll be discussing is the importance of references and recommendations. And also I will discuss how you can train and educate yourself for the perfect job that you desire to have. And also, I'll also discuss why volunteering is also important when it comes to looking for work, and why it's important to be persistent when looking for work. The first thing you do before you start really applying for jobs is know what your values are, what you like in a particular job or a particular position, and what are your dislikes, because you have a right to pick a job based on your values, your likes and dislikes when it comes to your professional career. And a lot of things that we do is that sometimes we make the mistake of picking a job because of how much it pays or because of the title of the position. But the thing is that it's important to pick a job where you know it is the perfect fit for you. And don't just pick a job based on the title, position, or how much you make, especially when you're starting out in your career or your professional life. And some of the values that you may want to consider when it comes to your career is how much power would you like, what are your social causes, what is very important to you, do you want to be in a leadership role or in a role where you're a supportive role, are you a team player, do you believe in team building, are you looking for a job where you can advance your career, or are you just looking for a temporary job for now until you can get to the job you want that will be suitable for you to advance your career. And some people, another thing you need to consider when you're looking for a job is what type of job environment do you like? Do you like a large corporation or a small company? Do you like it where your boss is always there to give you directions and answer your questions? Or do you like it where your boss allows you to do your job and give you free reign? That's a couple of things that you have to think about. Some people don't mind a boss who's always down telling them, hey, I need for you to do this or that. And then you have some people where they work better, where you give them an assignment to do and they can do it on their own. And another important thing when it comes to, excuse me, I'm going to have to move to another room. Sorry about that. Another important thing when it comes to applying for jobs is that you have to know your mission and purpose. What is important to you? What are your core values? What do you believe in? Because the wonderful thing is that if you, let's say, for example, you love animals and you love to protect animals and you want to get a certain job like with PETA, you may want to apply for a job there because it's part of what you believe in, it's part of your passion. And if you pick a job that incorporates your values and your something that you're passionate about, you are more willing to stay at that particular company. You are more willing to do a great job, and you have no issue with advancing in the company or staying with the company for at least 5 years, compared to just taking a job because of how much it pays you, and then you're not happy there and you wind up looking for another job. So the main important thing is nothing wrong with choosing a job based on your mission and purpose and what you're passionate about. And sometimes you will have to take a short-term position in order to get the desired job that you want. And also, when you're looking for a job, if you want to climb the corporate ladder, it's important to pick a job or a position that will give you the chance to do that and allow you to do that. And another important thing is when you're applying for a position, make sure you know the main reason why you're applying for it. If it's to, make money, no problem with that. Apply for the position or anything like that. That's the main thing. Just know why you're applying for this particular job. Don't apply for jobs because someone tells you to or someone wants you to have a particular position in life. You have to pick a job that you love, that you know that you will at least want to be there for at least a year. And another important thing when you're doing your resume, include all of your educational background. I'm not just talking about education that you got while in college. Include if you've taken online courses, webinars, if you went to events where the workshop or anything, any type of education that you have taken, make sure you include it in your resume. And another important thing to remember is that on-the-job training can be a substitute for education. And if you have special certifications, like if you can speak in any other languages, put that down. If you sign language, put that down. If you have CPR certification, put that down. If you have paralegal certification, any job training or specialized training you have, you put all of it down. And make sure that you clearly state out your professional skills, clearly state out your strengths and your weaknesses, because some employees are impressed with potential employees who are able to let them know, yes, I have strengths, but they also categorize their weaknesses as well. And when you're applying for jobs, make sure that you look at the job bulletin, the job description, and put some of those keywords from the job description into your resume, because that will signal you out to them. Because now a lot of employers, what they do is they'll put resumes into a computer system. If the keywords do not pop out, your resume is gone. So make sure when you're applying for a particular position, your cover letter and your resume clearly states the keywords from the job description. And please remember that you're just not going to have one generic resume. You're going to have to make several copies of your resume whenever you're applying for different positions, because each position is going to have different specifications that they need in their potential employees. And when you're writing a perfect resume, the most important thing is to highlight your strengths. And another key thing is, do not put any job descriptions on there, any previous jobs on there that do not fit the job that you're applying for. Like, for example, if you're applying for a nursing position, I would not put anything down in, like, if you were a teacher assistant, I would not put that down. But if you were assisting like a nurse aide in school, I would put that down. And your resume should only list skills that match the keywords from the job description. And do not be ashamed to put your volunteer work. If like you're a student and you're just starting out and you haven't really had any job positions, but you've done a lot of volunteer work, and that volunteer work coincides with the job description, put that information down. And also include personal activities in your resume that may coincide with what the job description states, because you never know. If you're a tutor and you do that on a volunteer basis, or you do that because you enjoy doing it and you're applying for a teaching position, put that down that I tutor young children who may be at risk. And another important thing is include your awards and accomplishments. That's very important. Like if you are tutoring, you received an award for your tutoring service in the community, put that down. And another important thing is when you're doing a resume, you don't necessarily have to put references unless the employer asks you to send the references. And when you do references, make sure you let the individual know who you gave them as a reference to, who will be calling them, what job did you use them as a reference for, so that they will know when the individual calls them, if H&R personnel calls them. And also, before you send off your resume, please have someone review it to check it for grammar issues, spelling errors, and make sure that the sentence structure is correct. And also, if you have a career counselor or a job counselor, have them help you with completing your resume. And do not be afraid of constructive criticism from individuals, because constructive criticism helps you to become a better individual, and it helps you to be better prepared for your desired job that you want. And another important thing I can't reiterate, to know your strengths and weaknesses, because one thing that potential interview employees will do when they interview you, they trick you up with this one particular question. What is one weakness that you have? And what you can do is turn that weakness into a positive. Like, for example, the interviewer may ask you, what is one of your weaknesses? You can say, well, I have a habit of trying to get work done on time. And see, you can turn that around and say, that's why I have been working on this weakness. When I know a particular task is due to be done at a certain time, I try to work on it earlier so that I do not miss the deadline for the task to be completed. And that's how you can twist a weakness around into a strength. And it's okay to talk about your strengths and everything and highlight your strengths, but be careful with that. You don't want to sound too conceited or too overconfident. Just say enough and keep all your strengths and weaknesses geared towards the job description, the title of the job, and what are you required, the duties required in that particular position. Do not discuss anything outside of the job position duties, the job description, and the job title. And one thing I can say is that you need to create a social media resume. In LinkedIn, you can see that as a social media resume. And the main reason why I think it's important to create a LinkedIn profile for yourself is because you may have friends and families and associates who work for particular jobs, and they can be a good contact for you on LinkedIn. They can let you know when certain positions are open. And when you do apply for jobs via LinkedIn and that individual works for that particular job, you can let them know, say, hey, I just applied for a position at your place of work. Can you put in a good word for me? And they will ensure to do that. And the good thing about LinkedIn is that it's a professional website, and you should use it as a professional website. Think of LinkedIn totally different than what you think of like Facebook, Instagram, where you put all your personal information, you know, personal information about yourself and your family. Be careful with that. On LinkedIn, keep it professional at all times. And the most important information that you should have on LinkedIn, always have your contact information. Make sure you put your work experience, your education, your life skills. It's okay to put personal interests like I love to read, I like to ride bikes, and make sure you have good references. And always keep your LinkedIn profile professional. And another key thing is try to avoid using I when you're describing your experience and all of that. Say that, try to make it more of you, what you can do for that particular company, why they should hire you. And that's how your LinkedIn profile should look. It should not have I do this, I do that. It's okay to say, you know, Amanda is good at this or anything, but try to avoid using first person when you're doing your LinkedIn profile, because you want to make it about the particular employer. You want to remember that your LinkedIn profile is you telling them, this is why you should hire me. I understand you have certain needs, and this is how I can fulfill those needs as an employee with your company. So with your LinkedIn profile, keep it professional. Don't put in too much personal information on there. And remember not to use first person. Remember, it's not about you. It's about you. It's about the potential employer that you're trying to attract. And when you do references and recommendations, you should always keep your references up to date. Make sure you have all up to date contact information for all your references. Make sure you have their correct phone number, their correct email address, and their correct address. And whenever you use someone as a reference for a job, make sure you let them know so that they don't have to deal with element of surprise. Let them know who is calling them. Let them know the area code where the person will be calling. And when you do, if you do get recommendation letters, that you want to go ahead and attach to your job applications, make sure that the recommendation letters are no more than a year old. Do not attach a recommendation letter that you got from your professor when you graduated from college, let's say back in 2005, and now it's 2015. Try to contact that professor and ask him for an updated recommendation letter. And a good thing is many professors will say, okay, if you type up the recommendation letter, I'll just go ahead and sign it. And make sure you send it to them in advance notice of applying for the job, at least 2 weeks in advance before the job application is due, because professors are kind of busy, or former employers are kind of busy. They may not have time. Don't wait 2 days before the job application is due to have someone do a letter of recommendation for you. And just keep your recommendation letters up to date. No more, I would say no more than 6 months old. And your references, make sure you have all their up-to-date contact information, especially the phone number, email address, and address, because some employers still like to mail. They don't like the phone, they don't like the email. They like to mail out their information to the reference individual and have them mail it back. So whenever you're doing the recommendation letters and references, make sure all information is up to date. And a good thing to prepare for the perfect job is always, like on LinkedIn, the wonderful thing is you can follow certain companies that you would like to work for. If you want to work for Microsoft or Apple, go on LinkedIn and follow them so that you'll know what's trending in their particular, jobs, their particular industry, and then you'll be updated on, potential job positions that may be open. And another good thing is, even after you graduate college or high school, it's still important to continue your education. You can take webinars online. You can take online courses. People even do workshops where you can go to learn how to present yourself, how to do a proper resume, how to continue your education. And make sure if you have certifications, make sure you keep your certifications up to date. And there's nothing wrong with taking a course on resume writing and job training, because in these type of classes, They teach you how to write an effective resume, how to keep the keywords in there, how to bring out the best of you in your resume, and how to prepare an interview for the resume. And with a resume writing and job training course, it teaches you how to write an excellent resume, how to properly dress for your interview, what questions you may come across when doing your interview, and how to interact and speak during the interview. And that's one important thing, is make sure you listen before you respond. That's one thing I learned when I took a resume and job training course. Make sure you listen to the interviewer, let him or her finish the question, and then give yourself about a minute or two to ponder the question, think about it, and then respond. And if you have to have the question repeated, do not be offended. Say, can you please repeat the question? They have no issue with that, because to them, that shows that you are a good listener, you take direction and instructions well, and you will be a good asset to their company. And another thing is, if it's a particular company you want to work for and they don't have any opening positions right now, or any positions that are suitable for you, see if you can volunteer. Because sometimes volunteer work turns into paid work. By you working for the company, the following can happen. You'll definitely have a feel for the company atmosphere, and you'll know the key players at the company. You'll know who the human resource department is, who the hiring managers are. And if you're a good volunteer, and volunteers are employees, so don't ever think that you're not, because the same training that the paid employees get, they will give to the volunteers, because they want to make sure that the volunteers know exactly what is going on, how to handle the job, how to do the job, and how to do the job duties. So whatever they give the employee, any training they do for the employee, they do it for the volunteers. And one good thing is, if been volunteering there for a while, they will ensure that you know when positions are open, and you will gain work experience. The experience that you have as a volunteer, you will be able to put down on your resume. And the good thing about being a volunteer, you will know about the job positions before they actually put them out to the public. Because usually what the companies do is, they will put a notice out to their employees, people working for the company, to see if they're interested. And if they're not interested, then they'll, put the job position ad out to the public. So that's one good thing. If you can volunteer for the company that you desire to work for, that would be wonderful and great. And another thing, when you're applying for the perfect job, you have to be persistent. And due to the economy in the world right now, in America, Europe, the Asian countries, the job markets, perfect jobs are kind of scarce. So now you kind of got to create your own perfect job, and you have to be visible where you can get that perfect job. And here are some places where you can go to get the perfect job. Always go to career fairs in the particular field that you want to work in, because when you give your resume to someone and you take their business card, they will remember you. And if you don't get that particular position, you can always contact them and say, hey, are there any other positions? And another good thing is, go to different networking events in your particular field, where you were educated in, or business field that you want to work in, because you never know. You may meet someone there who is looking for someone like you, who has the skills and experience that they're looking for their company. Do not be afraid to join social events. Go to professional social events, join social organizations, because they are also a good place where you can get resources and contact information to find the perfect job. And if you have friends that are working at different companies, ask them, are any positions open? Tell them, hey, I'm looking. Please let me know when there are available positions opening. And sometimes you may have to take a part-time job with the company that you would like to work for, or in a position you would like to work for, or contractual work or temporary work, because that part-time work, contractual or temporary work, may turn into full-time work. And it's always good to, sometimes you may have to take a job that you may not particularly like, but while you're working at that job, continue to look for jobs in your desired field or the desired position. Because the funny thing is, in this day and age, is it's easier to get a job when you're actually working than it is for you to get a job when you're unemployed. I don't understand that, but that's just the way it is, because for some reason people feel that if you're unemployed, you're lazy, you don't want to go out to work. But if you're employed and you're looking for work, to them that stands out that yes, they do want to work. And just remember that it may take you a while to find that perfect job, but don't give up, because one key value I have learned is if they call you in for an interview, that's perfect, because that means they're interested in you. They may not be interested in you for that particular position, but they'll keep you in mind for other positions. And do not give up your quest to find that perfect job. And I want to thank everyone for being patient when I was trying to deal with everything here with the auto, with the camera, and with the slides. I greatly appreciate you and your patience. And I just appreciate you being patient with me to do this online course about finding the perfect job. So remember, the most important thing is to make sure you have a good resume, your references and letter of recommendations, all that information, contact information is up to date. Make sure your contact information is up to date. Check your resume before you send it off for any typos, especially for your contact information, because a wrong typo in your telephone number, your address, or your email address runs the risk of you not losing out on that perfect job. And while you're looking for that perfect job, it does not hurt to take part-time work, temporary work, contractual work, or volunteer until you find that perfect job. And go out. Don't just sit at your computer looking for jobs. Go to networking events. Go to career fairs. Go to social, professional social events. Ask your friends. And that's why it's important to do a LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn is the place to go if you're really looking for jobs. And make connections on LinkedIn. Make connections when you go to these career fairs. And whenever you apply for a job, the most important thing is to follow up. Send them a thank you email. And every 2 weeks, until you get a notice that that job has been filled, continue every 2 weeks to send them an email saying, hello, I'm just checking on the status of my application for so-and-so position. Has the position been filled? And don't feel that you are harassing them, because if you keep sending them notices, letting them know, this lets them know that you're interested in the job. This lets them know that you are interested in the job and that you will be a viable asset. And you will be surprised if you send an email every 2 weeks until they tell you, hey, the position has been filled, or we gave it to someone, has been filled, that they're going to put your resume on the top. So if you want to get that perfect job, you have to be persistent and don't give up. And now, if you have any questions, I'm open to any questions that anyone may have. Okay, Allison has a question. What do you think is the best ways to gauge the growth opportunities within a position? One of the best ways to gauge the growth opportunities is whenever a training comes up at your job concerning your position, take that training. And make sure that all of your certifications are up to date. And another thing is always look for opportunities to display your skills and talents that you have in that particular position. Do not be afraid, to talk to your boss and say, hey, what ways do you know what can I do in this job, in this position to grow as an employee. Do not be afraid to ask your boss that, because you'll be surprised. A lot of great bosses love to talk to employees who want to grow with the company. Now, you got to be careful, because you have some bosses or managers who may feel that you're trying to take their position. So just be careful how you address it. But the majority of the time, bosses and managers don't have no problem with an employee who's willing to grow with the company, because that lets them know that you're not just here, you're only going to stay for 2 years. You're here for a long time. You want to stay with the company, and you want to grow with the company. I hope that answers your question, Allison. Could you please give some, Ola asked the question, could you please give some tips how to really sure that the job is really perfect and that it's not just a perfect description of the job? That's why I say it's important to do a LinkedIn profile, because if you apply for a certain job, you can look in your connections, just type in the job and it'll pop up some of your connections to see who works. If some of your connections works for that particular company or department, you can ask them a few questions. And then also, whenever you apply for a job, you have the contact person. They always give you a human resource contact person. Do not be afraid to ask them a few questions about the job and about the position to make sure that it's perfect for you before you apply for the job. And another thing is, go on the company's website to see other people that is in that position, and you may want to contact them via email. They may not have a problem, or sometimes the website is good enough where it gives you a good description of the particular position you're looking for, gives you a good description of the company, and then you can determine if this company is a good fit for you. And sometimes you may want to do a Google search on the company to see if they have good ratings and everything, to see how well do they do with their employees, how long, the longevity of their employees, the advancement of their employees. The wonderful thing about the internet is you can Google and research anyone. And Ola, I hope that answered your question. Allison asked another good question. She stated that I talked about starting with volunteer, contract, or internship. If you are successful in going from this to a full-time job or obtain a promotion, do you have any tips of how to help own your new role? The first thing I would do is to get a feel of the company. That's how you can own your new role. Do your research. As soon as you get the job or get the promotion, even before you do that, make sure you do your research on a company to see how it goes. And then Allison added, don't get pigeonholed as always being a former intern. Oh, I see what you're saying, Allison. I believe, Allison, it doesn't matter, because you did a good job. They hired you for the full-time position. They took you on as a full-time employee. So your work as an intern or the volunteer person proved to them that you will be a viable asset. So I don't think you have to do much to own your new role. Just be who you are, and don't try to be something that you think that they want. Just be true to who you are. If you were a good employee as an intern or as a volunteer, you're still an employee. You're just an unpaid employee. And they value you more because you're giving up your time and energy to work for that company, and they should appreciate you anyway. So for me, I don't think you need to change who you are. I don't think you need to change your work ethics or your work skills that you had that got you there to as far as an intern, volunteer, and then now as a full-time employee. So what if some employees may say, oh, she got the job because she was an intern? Of course, you made the ultimate sacrifice. You sacrificed making good money at another company to come work for this company to get the skills and the work experience and qualifications you needed in order to be with them. So I don't think you should change who you are. Just continue to do the job as you were doing it before, and stick to your guns, stick to your work ethics, stick to your core beliefs and your values and your purpose. I hope that answers your question, Allison. Well, for me, Ola, trying to find a perfect job, I've always been an entrepreneur, and for me, I've had to create my perfect jobs. I've done a lot of volunteer work, I've done a lot of contractual work to get me where I am at now as a business consultant, public speaker, and mediator and legal professional. So for me, all of the experience I've had, whether it was paid or unpaid, has made me the person I am. And if you can't find a perfect job at a certain time, it doesn't hurt to take the skills that you have and incorporate it and create a little business for yourself so that you can be motivated and maintain your job experience, because there are a lot of small companies out there who would be willing to hire you, but they can't. And they wouldn't have an issue hiring you on an independent contractor basis until you're able to find the job you're looking for. And for me, finding a perfect job has always been, you just got to keep doing it and keep doing it, volunteering if you have to, taking, internshipping, like Allison stated, doing an internship, or taking a part-time job instead of the full-time position. So for me, that's how I was able to find the perfect job, is by creating my own job based on the work experience that I've had. And I hope that answers your question, Ola. Mhm. Are there any more questions? Allison asked a good question. How do you get over the analysis of being perilous during your search of finding the perfect job for this point in your career? I think what Allison is trying to ask is, if you're in the midship of your career where you've done a lot, but then you want to make a shift. Let me know if I'm not answering this right, Allison. And you want to make a shift in your career, like you want to go in the second phase or move to another career. I think the key thing is to reevaluate where you're at in your career right now. Do an evaluation. Write down the pros and cons of where you are in your career right now. Is the job offer good enough, or should you keep searching? Yes, you are describing it right. I have experience. Okay, I see what you're saying, so I am going the right way. Thank you, Allison. What you should do is, where you are in your career right now, and if you just reevaluate it, write the pros and cons of where you at right now, and create a vision board of where you want to go with your career. That's how I would do it. Where you are right now, what brought you, the good points that brought you this far in your career, the bad points you had to work on concerning your career right now, and also make a list of what you think you need to do in order to go where you want to with your career. Like, what do you need to improve? Do you need to update your certifications? Do you feel that you need to take a certain course in order to, gain more experience or more knowledge? Because the wonderful thing about the internet is, they have a lot of places where you can take online courses, free webinars, and everything. And that's a wonderful thing, where you don't have to spend a lot of time in school anymore. You can do a lot of what you want to do to improve your career online, and nothing's wrong with that. I hope that answered your question, Allison. Are there any more questions? Well, if there are not any more questions, if you have any questions after this presentation, my email address is D as in Donya, Zimmerman, Z as in zebra, IMMERMAN 36 at gmail.com. And you can hit me up on LinkedIn. All you got to do is put in D as in Donya, Z as in Zimmerman, business consultant and mediator, and you'll find me there. And I would be happy to answer any questions you have on finding the perfect job. And I just want to thank everybody for their patience trying to get this up. This was my first time for this, and I thank you for your patience for me getting the video part up, getting the sound up, and then the slides wanted to act silly. So if you have any questions, again, my email address is dzimmerman36 at gmail.com, or all you have to do is put in my name, Donya Zimmerman, for LinkedIn, or put in DC Business Consultant and Mediator. And if you want me to look over any resumes or anything, I have no problem with doing that. And I really enjoyed all of you for being patient and sitting in on this webinar with me, and I enjoyed spending this time with you, and I hope everyone has a beautiful and blessed weekend. And I'll say it again, if do you have any more questions? If not, you have my contact information, and you can contact me because I know sometimes you may have a question after a class or webinar is over, because I've done that before. And I thank you again, and I hope everyone has a good weekend. And take care.